Why is this here? Hide. Okay, there we go. All right, we are live, people. We are live, live, live. There we go. There was the notification on our Shrine page. Welcome. Come on in. Welcome, welcome. I see the people are showing up for our part two with Mfundishi. Akamaat, Akaya Kepra. Akamaat, is that a Budakaya? Akamaat Cheryl, Sanette Cheryl from the Shrine of Ma'at. We will be getting started very, very shortly. I see YouTube is in the house, Facebook is in the house, and we have part two of our interview with Mfundishi. Tonight is going to be power packed. We have so much information that we want to share with you. And in the theme of what it is that we're doing this season for Tuesday Talk, we will leave you with tangible information that you can use immediately to help our liberation, to help understand the information, to see the relevance of the information and how to live your life in modern day times and why that's important to do that for your spirit and for your soul. Now, we have Mfundishi Jhutyms Hassan Salim on tonight. Who in the audience does not know who Mfundishi is? You know what? If you don't embarrass yourself. Don't even say anything because he's a legend in the Kemetic community and the African spirituality community. He teaches the Medu Netcher. He knows herbology. And we're going to get into not only his latest book, but who Mfundishi is and what he does for our community. Okay? So without further ado, I'm just going to give a brief review of what we did before. In the first Tuesday talk that we did, we went over Menchu Hotep, excuse me, and the spirit of the Medjay. This is his first book in this like two-parter with these two books. Tonight, we're going to start with this one, Shemsu Haru, Menchu Hotep, and the spirit of the Medjay. So, Mfundishi, how you doing?
Echo, absolutely excellent. And it's a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you. So I'm going to ask you an easy question. Are you ready to give it to the people, Mfundishi?
I was born ready.
That's right. Anybody who knows Mfundishi knows that the answer to that is a yes. So Mfundishi, can you take us, can you give us a little bit about what this book is about,
Sure.
The Spirit of the Medjay, and then bring it into our current book that we're going to be talking about tonight?
Okay. One of the reasons why I wrote the book, I'm a historian, an Africologist, a Kemet priest, and as a historian, Menchu Hotep, the founder of the second golden age in ancient Kemet, is probably one of the monumental historical figures in the world. And if I do a survey of my college students, I might have 1 out of 100 who heard of him. And those are African study majors. So if I go into the hallway and begin to ask people, have you ever heard of Menchu Hotep? Menchu what? No. So I wanted to bring to the forefront a piece of history that has been left out, not distorted, just left out. I wanted to bring it to the front and show that some people know who Narmer is, or Menes, the founder, the first who united Upper and Lower Kemet. So Menchu Hotep is just as important because he does the same thing. After they go through a state of chaos, Menchu Hotep unifies the Upper and Lower Kemet and brings forth. In fact, Menchu Hotep is the one that made the word Kemet famous because ancient Kemet was known by other names. Sematawi, that was one of the particular names that, that it used. So that Sematawi means the united two lands. It was also Medu Netcher, which means the beloved land. So those were names of the whole nation. And Menchu Hotep made the word Kemet, the black community, famous to represent his country. So it's beyond the shadow of a doubt who he is. His era is called the classical period. The second golden age issues in the classical period. Classical means the best that you have to offer in any field, like your classical music. Classical music of America is jazz.
That's right. That's what it is. My mama used to tell me that when I was a kid.
Yes, you know, that's our classical music.
But thank you.
That's the best we have to offer, okay? Some Coltrane, some Miles Davis, stuff like that. Okay, all right. So now, if the second golden age is the classical period, and you don't even know any of the rulers there, then that's ridiculous. Let's just start right there. It's just ridiculous. If you want to know ancient Kemet, then you should know who the players are who created the game. Okay, so I wanted to bring to light the history of him. See, when you look up, you can find all the little separate bullets. Like you can find out, oh, his name. Oh, we know his father's name and his grandfather's name. We know his son's name. We know his wife's name. We know he had a couple of wives. We know their names. But we don't know anything about the person. We just got some bullets, okay? He came to reign during this time. He ruled during this time. He united Upper and Kemet this time. He fought a war during this time, and he died this time. And then, but you don't know who this person was, who was dynamic. And so what I did was bring the personality out. I wanted to show you who was the man behind these bullets. And who are these magi? When you look magi up, it just simply says that a group of warriors from the Sudan, modern day Sudan, ancient Nubia or Kush, and that they patrolled the deserts. They were guardians. They also were the bodyguards of the Nasut Biti, the kings of Egypt, and the magistrate and the judges. And so a light should go off. Who are these people who the king, who's the most powerful person in the world, only want to be his bodyguard? So a red flag should go up. Oh, wow, who are these guys? And then they're the judges and the magistrates. So not only are they the greatest warriors, they're honorable and just. I don't think you can say that about European warriors or Asiatic warriors. Honorable and just usually wasn't on the program. Okay, so we're putting another flag goes up. Wow, these people are the judges, the magistrates, and the bodyguards. And when caravans was carrying gold and valuables across the desert, you only want the magi to defend it? Okay, I need to get into who these people are. And so now I wanted to bring to light. You see, George Lucas, who created Star Wars and Star Trek, was a closet chematologist, Egyptologist. So he used a lot of his sci-fi was based on ancient Egypt. So when he had in Star Wars, the greatest warriors in the Federation were called the Jedi. The Jedi. And the Jedi is from Magi. The Jedi is a wing of the Magi. So Lucas knew this, and he brought it for. And then the Magi, the Jedi, the Magi definitely tell you they're connected to the Twa people, the original people of the planet, the first Homo sapiens sapiens, small, little, short black people. So what does George Lucas do? The head of the Jedi is Yoda, a short little green guy, and they claim nobody knows where he comes from. No, he came from Africa. Okay, that's where he came from. All right. So I'm trying to show you how the sci-fi is using these concepts that are real, and you think it's just some make-believe stuff. Okay. And so I wanted to show that type of connection. If you know anything about the Twa people, you know the Twa people, the short people who live in Africa, and they also are called the Anu They are the people who left Africa and populated the rest of the world. So that you get an idea. If you go to Japan, the 7 islands of Japan, the Anu people are the first people there. If you go to all throughout the Philippines, the Filipino, they call them Negrito. They had a rich, short, little black people. So the Magi are attached to them because they are the greatest herbalists. They have the greatest hunters. They're long distance runners. I mean, they shoot a poisoned dart into a deer and then run the deer down till the deer fall out dead. These are some bad brothers. Okay, all right. Sometimes they'll steal the prey from a leopard or a lion. All right, so I'm just trying to give you a little background of these short little people. Don't think they're defenseless. Okay. All right, so now I wanted to bring to light the greatest warriors that has walked the planet. I wanted to bring to light one of the greatest kings that's walked the planet. And I wanted to bring the philosophy and all these concepts together with it. So that was my feed on the first book to do that. So he ruled for 54 years. So I didn't want to cram 54 years in one book. So the first book takes you to approximately he's 33. That's like a biblical number, 33. Okay. So at that point, he goes through his rites of passage. He becomes a magi. And now he becomes the king, the Nasut Biti of, of Upper Kemet, because it's not united. His father's only the ruler from Waset, Upper Kemet. Okay, so if your map, most of our maps is upside down, but if you had a correct, the Nile flows down north, and so if you had a map, you would see. In fact,
that's gonna be another Tuesday talk in Mfundishi. We're gonna break that map down. That's what I'm saying. We breaking it down.
Here's the map. I don't have it upside down. You see Africa's facing the right way. Okay, so the Magi come from here in the Sudan, which would be like a Sudan or present Ethiopia out that way. So this is south up, and this is north down. Okay, so he's traveling down north from up south. So this is the proper spatial perspective. The word for south is Rashut or Su. The word for east, which is this way here, is Yabit or Yabitet. And the word for west is Amenta or Mentet. And the word for north is Mahet. And so that's our vocabulary. We invented that. So we invented directions. And then somebody else came and turned the world upside down, and you think they're correct. Okay. And they just came on the planet yesterday. Okay. So now the first book, he unites the two countries together. His father is wounded, and finally his father gives him the blessings. His father passes on. He becomes the next ruler. He has to try to pull this country together. At the same time, simultaneously, he gets married to his sister to secure the throne. And then later, he marries another woman from the Sudan, from Kash, to be his wife, to have his child, because his sister doesn't bear his children. Okay, so it was kind of like an honorific marriage to make sure he secured the throne. So now he's married, he has a small child, he's running the nation, and now there's conflict between Lower and Upper Kemet. And so now you get a little glimpse into the personality of the king of the north, who wants to conquer everything. And so he sends Mentuhotep a letter saying that if he doesn't surrender certain territory, that he will take all of Kemet. But if he surrenders this territory, he'll allow Mentuhotep to still rule the South. Naturally, Mentuhotep says this is ridiculous. You're not going to tell me what I can rule and what I can't. And so he launches an attack. You got to read the attack. I heard some people say when they were reading it, they were ducking. You know, they were ducking. I was explaining the punches and hooks. It was like a kung fu movie. Okay. So I show you the battle. And they had the battle. They had to fight in two different terrains. First, they went to their capital, but then they defeated them at the capital. But the king escaped through a back passage and to meet up with some Asiatic warriors that he had hired to come to kill Mentuhotep. So Mentu now has to pursue him. And by the time he catches up to him, the king has met his fleet from Asia. So he got a whole fresh army ready for Mentuhotep. And so they go to war, they clash. And so I don't want to spoil that fight, but you'll see it, you'll in the book. It gets quite intricate. I'm a grandmaster in the martial arts, so I didn't just make up some stuff. Everything I got in there, punches, the technique, they were all real. As I was like going through the technique as I was writing the book. Okay, so you will feel the battle. So that's where book 1 ends, on the battlefield. On the battlefield.
On the battlefield.
On
so
the
we
battlefield.
know part 2 is coming up. Like, what?
So part 2 now starts out on the battlefield. On the battlefield. So they review the war, and now it's cleanup time. Wars are nasty. War leaves a lot of people homeless, wounded, mentally, physically, and spiritually. So Mentuhotep now takes it on himself to try to heal the nation. I consider that almost like Africans in the diaspora. We need a seriously healing. We've been through war. Now we're trying to get ourselves back together. We're trying to create a Pan-African. We're trying to create Pan-African unity. Africans throughout the whole diaspora coming together, whether it's on the African continent or at least mentally, so that we can take care of business and take care of our families, our homeland, and our legacy. Okay. And so in that book, that's Mentuhotep's job. Now he has to pull this nation back together. He has to venerate the ancestors. He has to venerate the spiritual consciousness of the community, their divinity, their natural rule, reflecting their images or the images of powerful entities. And so he does this. So he takes control of the images of his new nation. So I say to you out in the audience, you got to take control of the images of African people throughout the world. When we look at Africa, it should be a glorious, dynamic place. Just like in ancient Kemet, every picture you saw in ancient Kemet, they were in a divine state. I don't care if they were planting wheat in the field. The guy got his white robe on with pleats. His woman got pleats, long robe. And neither one of them got a speck of dirt on them. And they in the field planting. And he's cutting wheat. He ain't even sweating. He's cutting wheat that's like 6-7 feet high. They show their best. They took control of their images. That's what Mentuhotep did. They will continue to do statues in their best interests. I don't care how old the king was. Every statue looked like he's 25. They just get finished working out.
I want to jump in and say 2 things. The first thing is he looked 25 because black don't crack, and black wasn't cracking back then either. And the second thing is the Grandmaster Mfundishi has given us something tangible. And remember what we said, the information you're going to get is going to leave you with tangible work. Control our images. Control our images.
That's the first thing.
That's the first thing. So if we are not able to physically control, when you see some nonsense, make a fuss. Make sure people know this is a lie. Here's why it's a lie. And here's the truth. And yes, that's work. But everybody has to do something. Okay. So when you're listening to him, make sure you catch the homework and the tangible work that we're going to be doing. Okay.
So now the second thing he has to do is he has to rewrite our story. You call it history. He had to rewrite our story to make sure that the lives of his ancestors was correctly portrayed. So he took control of history. No one else is defining your story. So he had his writers and everybody there, his scribes. They wrote things just the way they were on the battlefield. He wrote things just the way it was as he moved into the Saqqara, which was the royal cemetery, and paid honor to their ancestors. He wrote things just the way it was as he moved into the capital city. Okay. In fact, because they were so articulate, remember, this is the classical age. I was able to copy. I could just go in and read the Medu Netcher and see almost just what was happening and then bring the story to you. Okay. Nobody on the planet Earth has been more articulate and telling you about who they are and what was going on during their time period than the ancient Kemetu. They left more records than all the ancient civilizations put together and then multiplied by 10. That's why almost every museum in the world got an Egyptian wing. And when you look at the Louvre and see how much Egyptian stuff is there, and then you go to the British Museum and you see how much stuff is there. And then you come to America and you go to the Metropolitan Museum and you see how much stuff is there. And you go to Boston and the Museum of Fine Arts and you see how much is there. You go to the Rosicrucians Museum in California and you see how much is there. And you say, is there anything left in Kemet? And the answer is yes, because Kemet now got the largest museum in the world. Right in Giza, right near where the pyramids are. And so we were the most prolific writers. We took control of our story. That's number two. Number one, we took control of our images. Number two, we took control of our story. We didn't let nobody else write or interpret our history. Okay. Then the third thing he had to do, now he had to mend, he had to heal the people. Because it's just like our people here in the diaspora. We're out of our mind. We're crazy and we're sick. We used to be the most long-lived of people, and now we have the shortest lifespan in the richest country. That sounds like something's out of balance here. How you gonna be in the richest country with the most things at your disposal? That's food, medicine, health, everything and you got the worst health. It sounds like something fishy is going on. Okay, so you need to be really serious about this. The people in the richest country with the most commodities, the most health, are the sickest people on the planet. And we got the shortest lifespan here in America. So now Mentuhotep is faced with a similar thing in ancient Kemet. And so he puts his healers to work. They get rid of let me say this, they get rid of the foreign medicine. They get rid of the foreign doctors. They get rid of the foreign teachers. And he puts in place his priests. He puts in place his historians. He puts in place his administration. Somehow we got to get all these handkerchief head Negroes out of politics and then put real people in who represent the masses of people. Your vice president, they got her talking about how the government was treating refugees incorrect and she would change everything. And now she's the vice president and they treated the Haitian refugees worse than anybody in the history of refugees. She went 180% turn because now she's just a placeholder in a political arena that is anti anybody of color. So it's not just black people. I know we're taking it personal, but it's anti anybody of color. When your President Trump was in office, he was saying we need more people like the Norwegian people, like from Scandinavia, and we need more of them immigrants like that. And he called Africa and the Haiti and them the S-hole people, S-hole countries. So I just want you to understand. So Menchu Hotep did that. So he controlled the images, he controlled the history, and now he had to heal the people by traditional. He brought back culture and tradition. One of my last lectures people have heard me do is that culture is your medicine. Culture is your medicine. Everything that you need is built into your culture. So that's what Menchu Hotep began to make sure that the culture, based upon Ma'at, was their medicine. Dr. John Henry Clark used to tell us, they laughed at our clothes and we took them off. They laughed at our names and we changed them. They laughed at the way we depicted God and we changed it. They laughed at our language and we changed it. We ain't got nothing else left. It's ours. I think it's time to stop laughing and go back and fetch your clothes. Go back and fetch your food. Go back and fetch your culture, your way of art, your way of music. Go back and fetch all of that, like Sankofa, all the best that you had, and bring it forth to the future. And so that's what Menchu Hotep did. He went back into the archives. In fact, the reason why it's called the classical period also is that all the great writings that took place in the first golden age, on the Imhotep and other great Khufu and the pyramid builders, he took all of that and brought it into the middle period and made it standard reading. The writings of Ptah Hotep, that's all the first golden age. We know those writings because Menchu Hotep preserved them. He had the shipwrecked sailor, all of these stories were rewritten from the first golden age. And then during the intermediate period, you had the articulate farmer. That was all rewritten by Menchu Hotep and preserved so that we can enjoy it today. Classical period. So that's what we have to do right now. We got to talk about our heroes and sheroes and preserve that information for our children and for future children. So Menchu Hotep did that. Swift. He took and reorganized the whole spiritual system so that it would be from a Ma'atian position. During the old period, the only person who really went to heaven was the king. And maybe a few priests, high priests at that. Menchu Hotep in the second golden age said that everybody who does Ma'at receives Ma'at. So even the commoner, the warrior, the merchant, the royal family, everybody could go to heaven if they do Ma'at. If their judgment was based upon Ma'at. That was issued in during the second golden age. So I'm trying to show people how dynamic this was. So I made sure I put all of that in here. I talked about other civilizations who contributed to ancient Kemet during that time period. So we know people came from the south, from up south. Here's another map. So I want y'all to check out these maps we have. Okay. So this shows the correct flow of the Happy River going down. Okay. And you see the Medu Netcher all over it. So he made sure that the merchants here was receiving information from all around ancient Kemet and their neighboring towns, from Taseti, from Kash. All of these places, we named them, but they all came into Kemet. And so he developed commerce. That was the fourth thing he put on the agenda. You know, Dr. Jeffries liked to talk about the pyramid: governance, economics, culture. When you control that, you control the nation, or you control your city or your village. The politics, the economics, and the culture. And the economics and culture go together, and the politics protects that. So we have a capitalist system. A capitalist system, which is a dog-eat system. It's not fair. It wasn't meant to be fair. The system was created on slavery. So the economics filters that. And the culture is the European culture. And so African people, when you take on these political roles, you're just a placeholder in a government that is corrupt, that was created by thugs. And it's a thug mob rule. That's what it is, mob rule. I know you call it democracy. If you got ignorant people, you've got ignorant people voting yes, that don't make it right, because they were the majority. Okay. Ignorant, you could never get some, if you were, I had a just system based upon who was the most qualified, there's no way a Trump could have got into office.
Speak on it.
No way. But because this is a thug, gangster, mob rule, you can have a Trump as your president. Okay? And you're probably going to get some worse stuff coming up. Because mob rule, remember, mobs hung you. Mobs came and raped you. Mobs destroyed your cities and your towns. Because the mob said so, don't make it right. Ma'at is what rules. So that's why Kemet ruled for almost 4,000 years. No other nation was in existence that long on top. Because Ma'at. So every ruler was representing Ma'at, not himself, not his personality, not his private clan. He gonna privatize oil wells and privatize gold mines. No, everything belonged to the people. Okay, so now we got a couple of bullets here. We got control your own image. We got rewrite your own history. We got take back your own culture. And now you got economics. Control your economics, which feeds into your culture that you just took back. So the new culture you're personifying, your economics is built around that. And then your trade and your politics is supporting that, because it's supporting by Ma'at. So that's what I'm doing in here. I'm showing you how he did it, but it's how we can do it today. And then naturally, I show you commerce. Like I said, the last thing I was talking about was about Western Desert. We know our ancestors come from the South. We know they come from Western Africa, Eastern Africa, Southern Africa. But we don't know they came across the Sahara Desert. And so my chapter 6 is visiting Yam in the Western Desert. And I'm going to blow you away because this is real history. I'm going to take you the same trail that they took. And there's a trail. They'll get to an oasis and it says Khufu or Seneferu, the son of Khufu, was here during Khufu's 8th reign. So real history was being outlined as Menchu Hotep was making his trek to Yam. And then, yes.
I want to jump in and say this. There are some people who say, why are you in Kemetic spirituality? That's Eastern Africa. You come from Western Africa. And they miss the understanding that migration happened all over Africa.
That's what I'm doing now. That's what I'm talking about now. Yes.
Yeah. And they also miss the understanding that the African frame of mind was the same frame of mind across the continent. So when people ask you these questions, please pay close attention to what Mfundishi is about to say. He is explaining how the East, people from the East, migrated west, where a lot of Pan-African people were stolen and brought into all over the world. So this is the answer to that. It's one of many answers.
Yes.
So when people ask that question, I'm like, zero, Nathan with your little attitude. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of preface that as Mfundishi goes into real facts about that migration from east to west.
The oldest example of an Ankh that we see in pictographs is in South Africa. The oldest pictograph we see of Ra, the circle with the dot in it representing some energy, is in South Africa. And the oldest place we see Haru, the great falcon, as like a king symbol, is in South Africa. So just like my sister said, we migrated throughout the African continent for literally millions of years before anybody left. So we were intermingled. So that's why in Africa you have the shortest people and the tallest people. You have people who are pitch black, purple, blue, black. And then you have people who are fair skinned. Because there's a grid line. Africa's between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, which means that almost the whole African continent is tropical or subtropical. And so therefore you have the gradations of very dark to lighter brown. Okay. So all that's in Africa. So South Africa, East Africa, West, all contribute to Africa. I want people to understand Kemet is the mouthpiece of the African continent. I'm going to say that one more time. So people who live in West Africa, oh, that ain't got nothing to do with me. Yes, it does. Kemet was the mouthpiece of the whole African continent. The scholars who came from West Africa, when they wrote with wood in this wet climate, it deteriorated after a couple of 100 years. That same knowledge was brought into Kemet. They etched it in stone, and 6,000 years later, it's still there. In 100,000 years, it'll still be there.
Facts.
Okay, so when people came from West Africa and they didn't have writing materials and stuff, that those priests, remember, a lot of things was oral. The historians were like griots. They could sing your history. So all that was recorded in ancient Kemet. So Kemet was the secretary of the whole African continent. So when I'm talking about ancient Kemet, no, I'm not leaving out East Africa, West Africa, South Africa. I'm talking about the whole continent. It would be like you just looking at Mfundishi's lips and forgetting about the rest of the body. And say, yeah, Mfundishi's lips is deep. Not realize it's connected to a whole network. Kemet is connected to a whole network. Remember, the Happy River is the longest river in the world. And in the trip and in the book, I take you on several journeys down the Happy River so that you can get a feel what it was like. I took you to Kilimanjaro, the tallest mountain in Africa, so you can get a feel of what that was like. I took you to Mount Wanzuri in Uganda, this like covered with clouds, 3/4, almost 90% of the year, to see what that was like. We traveled down the White Nile and the Blue Nile. I wanted you to taste it and feel it. I took you to ancient Punt. And now in book 2, I take you out to the Western Desert and I show you real pictures. My sister, I went out of my way. I had to fight to be able to publish these pictures. I took real pictures showing you real cave drawings of African people going back 10,000 years ago. I showed you their mastery of astronomy and astrology. And it's the same astronomy and astrology that was used in Kemet. I take you out to Nata Playa. Nata Playa at the bottom here is a calendar that measures the equinox and the solstice that was done 7,500 years ago. Now that's even almost 2,000 years before Kemet came into existence. But it's the same calendar work, the same mathematics. So these people who created this eventually migrated into the Nile Valley, into Kemet, and brought their science with them. Now that's a real picture of it. And now let me say this. The oldest calendar we've seen is not 7,500 years ago. It's over 50,000 years, found in South Africa. So there we go again. The same calendar in South Africa is the same calendar in the eastern desert of Kemet, going out through the Sahara. And not only that, that calendar in South Africa is in perfect alignment of the Great Pyramids. So the people who built the Great Pyramid also knew this grid alignment where Monomotapa, the Great Zimbabwe ruins, is also directly in that line as it goes right into South Africa. So I'm trying to show you our people is so, they deep. Multiply that by 100 and you'll be close. And that's why I teach the Medu Netcher, so that we can go back and study this for ourselves. You don't expect your enemy. The fox would never tell the rabbit how to obey him. The fox would never give him a map to freedom. And if the fox gives the rabbit a Nobel Peace Prize, That means that rabbit helped the fox diversify his diet.
The fox don't even help all the foxes.
Right, so I'm just trying to show people you had a fox education. And so you wonder why that's not working for you. So let me take just 2 seconds to say this, my sister, my aunt. Watch this here. Somebody told us that if we got a good education, and what they meant by a good education was a good white education by white folks. And whites' most prestigious schools, like your Ivy League schools, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, okay, all right? That if we get a good education in those institutions, that we can get a good job, and we would be affluent just like they are. So now, let me make this statement. Black women, as a group, have more degrees and are more educated than any group of people in America. That's white men, white women, gay, Hispanic, immigrants, Asians, because people think Asians is at the top of the list. Black women are at the top of the list. They got more degrees than anybody. But now here's the catch-22. They're still at the bottom of the economic ladder as the least paid. So I don't want to say somebody just lied to you. But we know I smell a rat. It don't smell good.
I smell a rat.
I smell it, and it's bad. And it's not good. And we still following it. And guess what? I know people who were 25 years, 30 years out of school, still paying off student loans. That's a racket. Now, if I told you, take my class, you're really not going to learn nothing, but it's going to cost you so much money you have to take out a loan. and I can't guarantee you no job when you finish my course and I give you my degree. You would look at me and say, Mfundishi, you out of your mind. But America says that to you, and you lining up. You can't wait to do it. Cardi B Woodson in 1931 said, our most educated in this system will be our new enslavers. And that our mentality will be so warped that we will go to the back door without even being told. In fact, we will demand a back door. If it was one, we would help build one. Now, Cardi B Woodson saw this in 1931. He already saw what was going on. And so now, as we moved, I was in the middle of the book. Let me just move towards the end. He goes to Yam, and he sees that the culture way out in the Western Desert, probably out like where Mali is today, was the same people that were in the Happy Valley, and that they were ancestrally connected. And so this goes. So these are the people in West Africa now he's visiting. And then he actually he has one of his generals marry one of the king's daughters. That's how you confirm, in the ancient world, when your family's married, then y'all will bind together. And then they take the trip back to Kemet. Okay. And at this point now, Kemet is at the top of the totem pole. And then again, all along, you're learning stories about the Medjay, the Jedi. You're learning who the Jedi. In fact, I got one chapter after that's called The Female Medjay in the Royal Court. And you get a chance to meet some women Jedi who are at the top of the list. In fact, Mentor Chef's teacher is a Jedi. His mom's is a Jedi.
His mom's is a Jedi, y'all. That's why he's so dope.
Okay, so, you get a chance to really see. I put women in a very high light to show you just the way they were. And it's not that I was boasting it. I was showing you how it was depicted in ancient Kemet. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then I talk about the Kemetic classical age again, where I talked about all the literature and the stories come back. And I give you some literature in here. I give you some axioms of Hotep Ptah. I give you some axioms of some of the great rulers that in here. So, and then I talk about the Temple of Eternity. Menchu's mortuary temple was way beyond his time. He has a pyramid. He has a couple of steps, tiers. He has balconies around his mortuary temple. In fact, Hatshepsut Aman, Knet Hatshepsut Aman, in the 18th dynasty, the third golden age, imitated Mentuhotep's temple. And so he is also the founder where we have the Valley of the Kings and the Valley of the Queens. That area that was designated to that was set up by Mentuhotep in his court. So you see the work, and then you see the development of how he's developing his son to be the next ruler. He's making sure he's get the best of everything in terms of the education. Not what the Europeans talking about, get a good education so you can get a good job. His son don't want a job, okay? The idea is to give him a good, we created the concept of a liberal arts education, meaning that you learn something about all things that exist so that you're not ignorant. You just don't have blindness in. You're a math major, so you don't take no literature, no nothing else. You just do math. No, that's crazy. Okay, you need a nice, well-rounded education. So liberal arts was created in ancient Kemet that we have today. And I'm a component. I'm always telling my priests to develop themselves some mastery of the mineral domain, the plant domain, the animal domain, the human, and the spirit domain. If you have some mastery in all of that, that will probably be equal to about 3 PhDs. Okay, and then at the end of the book, I don't want to spoil it for you, but the end of the book, I got some really good surprises. So you got to read this. You got to read it all the way to the end. I enjoyed writing. I wrote this book. It took me about maybe 3 years to write this. So it was finally put out in 2017. And it took me about 3 years to write this. But it only took me about a year or less to finish this one. And this one is 100 pages more than this. This one is 190 pages. The first book is around 190 pages. This book is almost 290 pages. So it's almost 100 pages more. And I wrote it in 1/3 of the time of the other, because the whole story was already in my head. Once I outlined the chapters, it was just get busy every night. That's all. I didn't even know what no writer's block was. I knew exactly what I needed to do. Bam, okay, I got to put this in here. Bam, bam, So I was like 3 o'clock every night, in it, So again, I got some really good treats. But again, book 2 parallels a lot of things that Africans in the diaspora are facing right now. So when you can see what the wisdom teachers are saying to him, that same thing applies to us right now. Take control of your images. Take control of your history. And first, just know your history. Some of us, let's take control. We don't even know what it is, okay? Take control of your history and then know your history. Make your connection culturally to your ancestors. Culturally connect yourself to nature. Culturally connect yourself to your music. Culturally connect yourself to your art. All of those things. You got to get, culture is your medicine. Take control of your health. Get rid of European foods.
Period.
Right? Pizza and all that stuff is killing you. Chinese food, Italian food. Give that food back to them. I'm not down in their food. Chinese food is good for Chinese people. Italian food is good for Italian people. British food is good for them. You need food that's good for you. Tropical food from the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. And ease up on flesh, any kind of flesh. That's fish, as well as bird, as well as animal. Okay? You want to have, as much as you can, a plant-based diet. And take control of your health. Get checkups regularly, y'all. Go to your holistic healer. If you have a medical plan, you don't have to pay extra. Just go get a checkup every quarter. Find out what's going on before it's too late. Especially black men. Black men definitely don't want to see no doctor. We're the last ones to go. We go screaming and kicking. Like people be like you trying to take your kids to the dentist. You go, oh no. That's the way black men is with any doctor. And so when we find out something's wrong, it's automatically almost too late because the symptoms is melted. Women, on the other hand, if they just get a pain, they're on the way to the doctor and then they're gonna talk about it with their girlfriend. I had yeah, me too. Come on, let's go check this out. So women's socialization helps them live longer than men. Men want to keep it a secret. They don't want nobody to know that they're in bad shape until it's too late and there's nothing you can do about it. So black men, if you're listening to here, get your health checkup regularly, at least quarterly. Know what your health is. Know what your blood pressure is. Know what your have your blood test. Know what that. And if you can help it, don't take the shot. I had to sneak that in. I'm sorry. Don't take the corona shot if you can. You don't want nanoparticles all in there. Then you can be coming to Mfundishi on how do you detox from that. I can tell you how to detox and get your pineal gland together, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to tell you how to get the nanoparticles out of your bloodstream.
So I think this is a good way to segue from the book we can go into herbology next. You want to go there?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I just want to say, he gave us the Cliff Note version, if you will, of his 2 books about someone who, like he said at the very beginning, is as important as an armor. This is someone that we need to read and know it, not just read it and then put it down and you don't have the facts applied to memory. We need to know these facts as an individual because you walk in this world differently when you know who you are. And then secondly, the more we all know, the collective energy, the collective knowledge base begins to be rebuilt. So that is our own individual, role and responsibility to help in our Black liberation. Because if we ain't talking about liberation, then you ain't gonna get a boots to shop to talk about it with you because I'm not wasting my time. Liberation is our goal for what it is that we do. Okay. And a lot of the different categories that Mfundishi is involved in are components to that. So we're going to segue into herbology, and he kind of did that anyway. So Mfundishi, if you could give us a backdrop, just a structure of what it is that you do with herbology, and then give us our details.
Okay. I'm a Kemetic spiritual priest. So let me just say, ancient Kemet created the blueprint for a priestship on the whole planet. We are the prototypes of all priests are trying to imitate ancient Kemet. If you look at the Shaolin priests with the one shoulder out, ancient Kemet. The Buddhist priests, ancient Kemet. The Taoist priests, the Chinese priests, all in Asia, all in India, all imitating what they saw in ancient Kemet. And now a priest, remember I said you had to learn those domains. So the priest was a warrior. He knew martial arts because he'd have to travel through terrains. He might have to walk through the jungle, walk across the desert, walk through the rainforest, all these different places. He had to be able to protect himself. Okay. And so he learned the martial arts, usually from birth almost, all the way up. But he learned Ma'at, how to keep it in order, just like the Buddhists learned Buddhism, but they were great martial artists. So that was an imitation of ancient Kemet. Only the modern priests, like the Hebrew priests, Catholic priests, Muslim priests, these modern priests after 2000 BCE, they don't know nothing about anything except for their religion. Okay, they're not martial artists. Some of them even look down on the combat art, not realizing that's part of the holistic. To develop something and not be able to defend it is like not having it at all. And so the priests had to learn how to live off the land. So they had to learn medicinal plants as well as vegetables, fruits, nuts, grains, what were good plants to eat, what plants were poisonous, and then what plants would help heal you. So that was general knowledge that I had to learn, and I'm passing it on. So I'm teaching general herbology 101, and I'm going to put in a lot of Kemetic spiritual things, but I'm going to talk about things that we basically need today. Like we had a class, I believe, just a day ago, and I gave people a list of all the herbs and all of the basic books that you need to read and things of that nature. And so what I do, if you are part of my Medu Netcher beginner class, my aunt membership, I give you crystallology free. which would normally be $60 a session. So if you're part of the Ma'at, I give you that free. If you're part of Haru, which is the intermediate level, I give you the Herbology class free. So you can get that free and you get the crystal class free. Because I'm telling people you need to know the mineral domain, the plant domain, but they're not doing it. So I said, I'm going to help people along. I'm going to share the knowledge I have and then give you the correct books and teachers to take it on to another level. Okay. So I'm not giving you a certificate in herbology when you finish. You'll just have a certificate of completion. But I can, when you do crystallology, I'm a Kemetic high priest and crystallologist, so I can certify you and give you an official certificate as a crystallologist when you take my mineral class. Okay, so I do all of these to enhance us. All of this, we are part of all of this. And so you need to know that you're part of the mineral domain. The star, we say we're the children of the sun. We're star children with those same minerals that make up the stars, make us up. We need iron. We need calcium. We need all of these ingredients in our body to survive. And without the sun, we cease to exist. Okay, so I'm trying to show that. So that I show that, that all minerals on the planet, all stones are either intrusic, sediment, or metamorphic. If you know that, now you learn something about how the Kemetic were thinking. They can make the stones. They can create concrete.
Mfundishi, can you give us an explanation or a little bit of understanding on what are minerals? Where do we find them in ancient Kemet, but where do we find them in our modern world? And then what are crystals? And is there a correlation between minerals and crystals or a connection?
Yes. Crystals are minerals. All minerals are not crystals, but all crystals are minerals. The periodic chart that you had to learn at least in the 9th grade on listing all the minerals that exist on the planet. Everything comes from hydrogen and helium. Hydrogen is the most common. It's number 1 on your periodic chart. It's the building block of everything. From hydrogen and helium, they compress. And as they compress, they create other elements through pressure and heat. And then they create what we call a nebula. A nebula is like an incubator that builds stars and planets. And everything that you see that's material in the universe comes out of the womb of a nebula, which is the hydrogen and helium compressed inside of itself. When it explodes under pressure, now we have gold, uranium, cobalt, all these other things. Okay, so since that's the building block of the universe, you should have some knowledge in it. Knowledge in the earth. What minerals are on this planet? You live here, you should know. So I'm teaching you about the minerals that are here. Some are more valuable than others. Some can be made into jewelry. Some can be made for construction. Okay, so like countertops are usually metamorphic, or metamorphic stones are made from countertops in your house and in floors and steps and stuff like that, because they don't wear away. They're extremely hard. The diamond, ruby, sapphire, extremely hard stones used for rings and jewelry to adorn the body. We even attach times that you were born in. I call Ma'aharu. They call the zodiac. Everybody has stones or gemstones associated. Where do you think they got that from? The Europeans didn't. They didn't have that in the cave. You know. Oh, you were born during the Great Freeze. That was every year. You were born during the Great Freeze, and you had round icicles. No, we created that star chart that you see, the star chart with the 12 zodiacs and the 12 houses. That's an African invention. See, notice I didn't say it was just a Kemet invention. It's an African invention, because I just talked about all these people contributed to it. We see the final results in Kemet. Mm-hmm. And it could have been a final result someplace else, but because weather wore it away, we can't find it. In Kemet, they etched it in stone, so it's still there. So plants, you need to know what plants to eat, what plants to heal you. So that's what we're doing in herbology. What tea, just to comfort you. what oil you can just drop into your water to help soothe you. What aromas help open up your mind and allow you to think even better. How do you cleanse your house? What kind of sage? What kind of ointments why do you burn candles? So we discuss all of those things that some people will call hocus pocus. Okay, so herbology, most of you who are old enough to have known your great grandparents, almost all of them were herbalists. They knew what plant, if you were sick, they knew what plant to get. I remember I stepped on a nail. I must have been about 5 or something like that. And I remember my grandmom took some fat in a penny and wrapped it around my foot, a penny. And the copper in the penny drew all the poison out. And the fat absorbed it. So they knew all these old things. Today, you go into Rite Aid.
Not Rite Aid.
Okay. You go into a place called the drugstore. Listen to that name.
Store of drugs.
And you think that's okay. Okay. So that's why I teach the herbology, and they can just go on my website and they don't have to belong to other classes to do that. They can just join the class. They can just pay and come on and join the herbology class, which is once a month. They can go on the crystal class, which is once a month. Next week, I'm going to give a virtual tour of the Metropolitan Museum.
So before we go there, Mfundishi, I have a question from Texas Transparency, and he asked, is the creation of mortar related to minerals and or crystals?
Say that again, is the what?
Is the creation of mortar related to minerals and or crystals?
Both. So the answer is both, because even to create the mortar, to be able to create cement, concrete, stuff like that, what they did was they took a giant crystal that the sun would reflect like a magnifying glass, and then the heat coming from that glass melted the stone. Temperatures of almost 2,000 degrees.
That's crazy.
See? So now I can recrystallize that in any form I want. I can pour that into a mold and create the magnificent statues that you see. Okay? I can create blocks, like concrete. And so that's all part of the mineral domain. So without having knowledge of the mineral domain, they would never have been able to do that. So when people ask me, Mfundishi, we're supposed to be studying chemistry. Why are we learning about crystals and rocks and stuff like that? No, because that's part of chemistry. Do you see the sa that Tutankhamun was wearing? Do you see his sa around his body? Those are gemstones and crystals all laid inside of it. And that goes back to the first golden age. So 6,000 years ago, we were gemologists and crystallologists. Was there any in China? No. Any in Asia? No. North America, South America? No, not 6,000 years ago. So see, this is symptomatic thinking. You can prove it. We can show you. You can go to the book right now and pull up Tutankhamun's jewelry. We didn't call it jewelry. We call it Sa, S-A-A, which means spiritual protection. Like here, I'm wearing, this is amber. Amber is the sap of a pine tree, petrified. Okay. My other beats, I have some tiger's eye on. In my pocket, I got jet and red jasper. Okay. So you can wear it, adorn it, carry it with you, leave them in your house because it'll raise the vibration and energy. That's not spookism. That's a proven fact. They can scientifically see energy emanating. You can tap into that energy. And I want to say this here. The crystal don't care whether you believe it or not. Just like gravity don't care whether you believe it or not. Gravity affects everybody proportionally the same. Go up on top of the roof saying you Jehovah's Witness and Yahweh going to save you and see what happens.
Right.
You have some wisdom and some understanding that you up 8 stories and there's certain things you don't do up there, no matter what your religion is, okay? Because you understand science, okay? So now crystals is the same way, certain vibrations. So minerals, all the things we see on the planet is minerals, but certain minerals create a structure, a repeating pattern. And this repeating pattern defines it as a crystal or a gemstone. And usually it's extremely hard from pressure. Okay. And so that distinguishes from other materials like that. Okay. And because it can be made beautiful, shine, that's why it's used prolifically as opposed to just a regular mud rock.
His other question has to do with creation, creating stuff. He said, and how the temples in Mercut were created.
Yes, the temples, they use concrete and they use blocks that they molded, casted out of the quarries. So they used a combination of both. And all temples and stuff were also, you had to know astronomy and astrology because they were all aligned with the heavens and the stars. Okay, so not only did you have to know geometry, sacred geometry, calculus, math, you had to know astronomy and astrology. All of that was part of building. And then it was usually attached to some natural rule or some principles in nature. When you see those Hopper-style halls, those columns like that, they were imitating trees in the rainforest. So those Kemetic priests were like the Chwa people in the rainforest, imitating nature. How do you think we created 3.1 pi and phi and the golden means? By observing nature. All the trees, the flowers, the cones, all of them, the sunflower, all of them are using the golden means, that spiral, which is part of the universe. So we created that. And you only could observe that from watching nature.
As opposed to destroying
the meter and the centimeter was created in ancient Kemet. How did they create a measurement that would be equal to everybody all the time? They measured a drop of water. And they realized that whether you're in East Africa, West Africa, on top of Mount Kilimanjaro, or in the valley, that a drop of water was 1 centimeter. And so they made that their standard. And everybody's using that around the world today. But they had to observe nature. You had to be an ally with nature. You had to be a keen, meticulous. They say only a meticulous turtle can find another turtle in the bush. So you got to be meticulous as you examine your story and examine history. So hopefully I answered both of those questions. Yes.
Yes, you absolutely did answer those questions. Thank you. And with the drop of water being 1 centimeter, I mean, listen, I have Mfundishi on the show. This is Tuesday Talk with the Boots to Shop. But when I bring on when I bring the speakers and guests on, trust and believe it's their show. Okay, I'm a medium for it, and I appreciate that. I'm sitting back, listening and learning some new things for myself as well. So that was, I mean, understanding that, we were, and those of us who are still in our right mind are in tune with nature because we understand that we are part of nature, and the animal kingdom and everything that Mfundishi has stated was here before human beings. So observing it, we as African people had to be on this planet for thousands and thousands of years so that we can observe repetition.
Right. And now, some people have been so warped by the European mindset that even when I give them some good information, they can't use it. And I understand that. So somebody said, okay, Mfundishi, how is the animals helping us? I'm saying, okay, let's just take Jhuty, the ibis crane, part of my name, Jhutyms, one who is like, Jhuty is an ibis crane. So why, first of all, his beak looks like a pen for writing. Second of all, he has mastered concentration. He can stand on one leg in the water for hours, and the fish think that his leg is a branch. And then when they come by feeling safe, zip, their dinner. They've observed a crane who was sick give himself an enema, fill his mouth up, stick it inside of his behind, fill his behind up into the water, and the worms and everything gushed out. And now he just flew away all happy. So the priests observing this observed what an enema was. That's how they discovered an enema, by watching the animals. Okay, so I'm trying to show you by keen observation of the animal domain, who are the strongest. If I ask somebody, what's the strongest creature on the planet, animal, proportion to their size? 9 times out of 10, I get it wrong. People get it wrong. So now I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to mess. Not the elephant. He's the biggest, but he's not the strongest. You say, well, the gorilla proportionally is one of the strongest. Silverback gorilla, who's stronger than he is? Mighty Joe Young, King Kong, ain't nobody stronger than he is when he beat up Godzilla. Okay, but now, in proportion to size, the strongest creature on the planet Earth is Khepera, the dung beetle. He can lift over 1,000 times its weight and walk endless with it without getting tired. What creature can lift 1,000 times? It's more than that, more than 1,000 times his own weight. And so in proportion to time, now the ant is pretty close. Ant is like third. Certain ants can, or super workers can lift up 500 times its weight. But 1,000 times its weight? Only Khepera to come into being. Okay, those people who think they were born in Cancer was actually born in Khepera. The Greeks didn't know what the dung beetle was. They thought it was a crab. So now they got you running around like a crab thinking that's Cancer. And wrong. So I teach also in a more advanced class, I teach the Kemetic, what we call astrology.
Quick question. So you saying Cancer, that's in June and July, should be the Khepera?
Khepera should be the dung beetle, not a crab, right?
I'm gonna tell my mama because that's her sign.
Yes.
Not even as a kid, I never liked to say that word because I knew.
And Libra, the Virgin, is my aunt.
Wait, who? That's me. Hey.
Okay, so you were born with the scales, but that's my aunt. They got a white girl there. No, that you ain't part of that. You ain't that. You're my aunt. Okay, all right. So, and I can go through the whole zodiac, but that's another whole show. Okay, but listen, you got to come home to Kemet. Culture is your medicine. If you want to worship Jesus on Sunday or Muhammad 20 times a day, fine. But you are an African person. You need to. Culture is your medicine.
Culture is
when
your
you have a foreign culture, you're destined to be sick and destroyed. In ancient Kemet's time, Kemet was founded almost the same time as Canaan. It's another group of African people. Canaan, the founder of Canaan is Nimrod. Nimrod is the son of Cush. And so during Tutankhamun's time, which is like 1500 BCE, he said, what happened to our brothers in Canaan? I traveled there and I don't see them anymore. The Asiatics have moved in. And the priest looked at him and he says, they lost their culture, their language, their history, and they died. And so now, if I take you any place in the world and I show you people who are outside of their mind, crazy, killing themselves, don't know their story, they're the walking dead, they don't know their language, they don't know their culture or their history, so mentally they're dead. It's amazing. It's amazing that Africans in America are at the level that we're at right now. We just defying all odds. We're a miracle people. We show that we're the strongest. Everything about our culture has been destroyed for us, and we still survive. Now, I do want to say this because I'm going to have some people. I'm not going to talk about religion, but I want to just say this here part.
You can talk about religion. You got it.
Certain religions, when everything else was stripped from you, your own cultural religion, your own spirituality, which you were severed from, the enemy shoved his religion down your throat, whether it be Christianity or Islam.
Speak on it.
In all the versions of those, that it could have helped you survive at that moment. I don't doubt that. You were in troubled waters and you talked to Jesus and he helped you. You thought you was going to lose your mind and the Prophet Muhammad came to you in a vision and helped you survive. I don't deny any of that. And I say dua for you at that time, because at that particular time, that's what you needed to survive. But now, it's like getting across the water. Let me say, you got a big ocean or a big lake. In order to get on the other side, you need a boat. So you are about to die on this side of the water. You needed life on the other side of the water, and you used a boat called Jesus for Christianity to get you across. Some people got on a boat called Muhammad, and it got them across. But now you're on your way up to the top of the mountain into your land, and you're still carrying the boat on your back. So the boat that helped you at one time now is a burden if you're still following that, because it's not going to teach you your culture. It's not going to teach you your language. It's not going to teach you your history. It was developed to suppress you. It was developed to control you. And so now you're trying to get liberated with the same thing. No, it's not going to work. Get the boat off your back. Climb the mountain as a mighty warrior. And recapture your mind, your history, and the glory of your people. So much, Shashat, I hope that I enlighten people there, on why it's so important. I don't deny that those religions didn't help them at some point.
Right.
Like I said, now you got to cross the water. Now it's time for you to go up to the mountain, to go home, and you still got the boat on your back.
Mfundishi, there's one last thing that we were going to discuss, and I think that this also segues into what you're just saying. So I just want to take a step back and make a few comments about what Mfundishi was saying. We have, as Pan-African Black people, we've had every religion shoved down our throats, just like he said, except for our own. And for anybody who's listening to this, ask yourself why you believe what a psychopathic, sociopathic, pedophilic rapist who did not bathe is telling you. Why would you believe them? Why? Just ask yourself that question in private, in your own mind. Just ask yourself. I'm not telling you to leave Christianity. I'm not telling you to leave Islam. I'm not telling you to leave anything. I'm asking you to then ask yourself why you believe that man. You cannot name one thing that man and that woman said or did to our relatives that was beneficial for them. Nothing that was done left a legacy of anything positive. Now, I have used a lot of absolute terms. If I'm wrong, look this over, point it out, hit me up in the DMs, and tell me what I said that was wrong. That's number one. Number two, there are times when we do what we need to do because we have to do it at that time. Now, I'm gonna use Cardi B as an example. I'm about to use her as an example. Cardi B used to be a stripper. Why was she a stripper? Because she was escaping domestic violence. And she used that to go to community college. So she had an option: stay in this domestic violence situation or get out of it. And the only thing that she had in her life at that time was stripping. Is Cardi B stripping now? No. She is not stripping now because she has other options. The stripping helped get her out of that situation in the community college. And now she's a millionaire. She got a baby. She got a husband who built her a house in Dominican Republic and all of that, whatever. I don't really follow everything she says and does. And I don't say, oh, I like this person, not like, I don't do all of that. I'm looking at her as a Pan-African Black woman. She's more on the mixed side of that, but we take that as Black, who elevates when she's given the opportunity to do that. Y'all got to stop stripping because you don't need to do it anymore. Okay, so if it were meant for you, I'm sorry, if it were not meant for you, then it wouldn't be so hard to get rid of. The brainwashing that goes into it is wrapped around going to hell. That's the reason why a lot of people stay, because they don't want their souls to burn in hell. The last thing I'm going to say about that is this: and I can only speak on the Bible because I used to be Christian, but even when I was 7 or 8, I didn't believe all those stories because those stories didn't make any sense to a 7-year-old. When I asked my pastor to answer these questions, he sidestepped my question. He sidestepped it with answers that didn't answer my question. And even at 7, I'm like, this dude is lying to me. I didn't say it like that because I'm a grown woman now. But I said to myself in my 7-year-old brain, he didn't answer my question, but he tried to deceive me. So he's hiding something from me. I wonder what that is. I said that when I was 7. Okay. So lastly on this, mostly everything that is of any kind of substance in the Bible came from Kemet. It came from us. We wrote it. There's proof of it. You can see it, just like you can see your screen, just like you can see, your cup that you have in front of you, because we created that. So anybody who's watching this, who feels some type of way about it, just take those things into consideration. And we're also going to have a guest that's going to be coming on next Tuesday, Dr. Ray Hagans, and we're going to discuss the emotional connection that Black people have to their relatives, but connected to the church and connected to God and connected to Jesus and connected to chitlins and connected to an unhealthy diet and all of those things, and give you a way to separate the love you have for your relatives who did the best they could to tools that were never meant to help us. Okay, so that's my opinion. I make my comment on that. And I see some of the comments, and I appreciate your comments, guys. I really do. Now, let's segue into Mfundishi's Medu Netcher class and his museum tour, because learning your language and knowing how to read your ancient language is a connection to you. So this is a way to get back your culture, because you are speaking in the language of your old relatives. And I'm going to say relatives because the word ancestor has a disconnect at some level, because we use the word to mean of two meanings. One is our relatives from hundreds and thousands of years ago, and we at some level recognize that they were human beings and relatives like your sister, your mom, or whomever. But we also use the word ancestor to mean our relative who's passed, and then we connect with their spirit, and we have ancestral altars, and we bring their energy and speak to them, and we connect to our ancestors in the spirit world. And because we do that, sometimes we forget the fact that these were people that we were related to. So when Mfundishi's talking about the Medu Netcher and the museum tour, it is to specifically and tangibly and literally bring you back to your native language. Okay. Chitterlings. Right. So I'm going to pass the mic back over to Mfundishi. Bring us home, Mfundishi. And I'm going to put Mfundishi's Cash App up here. Brother dropped knowledge, dropped literal gems on us. Everybody hit up his Cash App. He doesn't do it for money, but we all need money to do it. He needs money to do it. We sat here, it's almost 2 hours. Hit the man up on the Cash App. I'm about to put this here. He's going to bring us home. Mfundishi, you got it.
Okay. Right now, you need to join our Medu Netcher class, because I think we only got maybe 2 more weeks before we close registration, because then we'll be too far and you'll be pulling the class back, trying to catch up. So you probably got about 2 weeks to join the class. You want to join at the beginner Ma'at membership. So Ma'at membership. So you're going into Ma'at. And so Ma'at membership is where you want to start there. And that'll get you free Christology class. It'll get you Mfundishi Speaks, as well as getting you the Medu Netcher. And the Medu Netcher is going to enhance any language that you already know. But the only difference here is the Medu Netcher is going to connect you back to nature. It's going to connect you to your divinity. It's going to connect you to the animal domain. And it's going to connect you to the spirit domain. All those domains you need to master. Okay, you will see in the Medu Netcher. And so it's going to help you get back your right mind. And somebody said, well, ain't nobody speaking it. We speaking it. I open up the program with it. I speak it every day. I speak it several times a week. I got lots of people I can speak it with now. Can you imagine young people learning from pre-K all the way up to PhD? How prolific they would be in their world understanding? It would expand tenfold. And so just for that alone, the Medu Netcher is valuable. Even if you're not going to speak it to somebody else, just learning your ancient story firsthand is worth it alone. But it's going to be inspirational. So I'm saying now, for the next couple of weeks, registration will be closed by the end of this month. So make sure you sign up Ma'at membership. If you already took the class and you've taken your exam and you move forward, you go to Haru membership. And then my advanced class are in Jhutyms membership. But you want to start out in Ma'at membership. Okay. So next week on Thursday, I'll be giving a virtual museum tour. I don't do the museum tour at the museum anymore. I think last month was the last time I'll be doing it there, because now the city has passed a law that you have to take the COVID shot in order to go into the museum. I don't want nobody getting shot with that COVID virus, that experimental shot, just to see me in the museum. So it's going to be a virtual, but you'll get everything that you would have normally seen. I'll take you through and around the museum virtually, right on your computer, so you can stay in your own living room, and I will dispel all the lies that they've told you. Because all the lies they told you in elementary school, high school, and college have to be reinforced in the museum, because it's the government funds that. So the same funds they gave the school to tell you the lies, they got to reinforce it in the museum. So a museum is a trophy case of white male domination. I'll say it again. I know you think a museum is an institution of higher learning that has artifacts in it from around the world. No, most of those artifacts are stolen or were just taken, theft. So let's just be clear about that. And what it is, it's a trophy case. This is what you used to look like. Now you look like us. If you see the behind me, that's the Hene Ashante receiving the throne, the Shanti throne from heaven. And you see all the brothers with their robes and stuff on. They'll say, that's what you used to look like. Now you wearing a penguin suit. Now you look like a penguin from Europe, from Asia. Okay. I know when you put on your tuxedo and you think you got it going on, I know you don't think you look like a penguin. Well, I'm looking at you as a penguin. That's what you look like with a penguin. All right. Give those clothes back to them. Wear your own clothes. You got classical clothes from East, West, North, South Africa. Everybody has their own fabric. Nobody got more fabrics than African fabrics. Okay, so when you go through that museum tour, we can see all the trophies that they have. They've just gotten whole buildings they've taken from Kemet and put in there. They got all types of carvings and artifacts, statues, the jewelry, the graves. They've just robbed the graves. They got coffins, karas, mummies, everything in there. So I'm going to take you around, because a lot of times they've also misnamed it. Or they know who it is and they gave you the wrong name. Like it'll be Ursa Ma'at Ra, Setepen Ra, Medi Amen, and they'll just put Ramses II. He wouldn't even know who you were talking about. Ramses who? Okay, so we give you the right names when you go on the virtual tour of the museum. So it'd be just like me taking you physically, except for you can just sit in your living room, okay, or wherever your computer is, and take this tour. So each month I'm taking you on a tour, and I'm stressing certain things each month. So the first month is basically everything that's at the Metropolitan Museum. The second month will be most things that you can find in the British Museum or the Boston Museum. The third month, I'm taking you to the Louvre Museum in France. And then the fourth month, I'm taking you to the Cairo Museum, the largest museum in the world of ancient Egyptian artifacts. And so, but without going to those physical places, I have the pictures and I'll take you through and explain them. I did the tour of the British Museum just pre-pandemic, 2018 and 2018, 19. And we had over 100 people going through the tour with us. It was magnificent. They didn't know what happened. They saw this, all these black people. What's going on here? The ancestors have returned. That's what happened. You thought you killed us, but we are the seeds and we've grown. Okay, so come and take this virtual tour with us as I take you through the museums. You can just go on mfundishijhutyms.net and you'll go into the section dedicated to events, and you can just sign up and pay right there.
So I have Mfundishi's. I'm going to scroll this by one more time so that you can see just his website, because everything that you need is on that website. You'll be able to contact him and also see, you know, what he talked about today with the Medu Netcher class, the museum tour, the crystals, the herbology, both of his books, and you know, and other things that he's doing. Okay, so
I just want just one plug. If you're taking the Medu Netcher class, you need this book.
What's the name of it?
Go on my website, or you can go to Barnes and Noble and order. And it must say new edition, because there's some people still bootlegging my book. So you have to get the new edition of Spiritual Warriors or Healers. So you need this. This is the class book for the Medu Netcher classes.
Someone said that they were in the middle of reading that book. A comment was made earlier. So if you're in the middle of reading the book, join the class. So I just want to thank you, Mfundishi, for, you know, giving the people what we need. And I've stated this before. We are in the midst of, these are our legends and our greats right here. And sometimes I tease Jabari because he grew up around it, and I'm like, that ain't even fair. How is that fair? You just were born in Brooklyn, so you get it all. But anyway, you getting it all right here. Tuesday Talk. One of the reasons why I started Tuesday Talk was because I wanted to meet all of the greats, like for real, for real. I was like, listen, when it was the pandemic and we started our Asarian series, I was like, I'm doing Tuesday Talk and I'm meeting folks online because this is so super dope. Mfundishi is one of those great teachers that just gives you everything, all of the enthusiasm. So thank you so much for everything that you've given us. Mfundishi, it's Mfundishi on Cash App. Please show the man some love and appreciation for not just the information that he gave us, because he didn't just drink a cup of water, and he hasn't. This is decades and decades of learning and studying and teaching and knowing and experiencing and spending his time and his money to get this. And so he came on here for free. So let's make sure that we respect the elder and the effort and time it took for him to just, you ask him a question, boom, he has the answer. Okay. So thank you so much for coming on, Mfundishi. We're gonna have Mfundishi back because he talked about that map.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And the calendar.
We've just created a new map. One of my star students, Basui, led the team, but it was a shrine effort. And I want to say it's the most dynamic ancient map I've ever seen in my life. And it's probably the best map in the world dealing with ancient Kemet.
Okay. So y'all heard it here first.
In it, it's all in there. All the rulers, the Medu Netcher, quarry sites, trade routes, the temples. the Netcher is all on there and it's orientated correctly.
So here's what we're gonna do, y'all. We're gonna get Mfundishi to come back on here. He don't know that yet, but he gonna come back on, so don't tell him. But there's gonna be enough time so everybody can get their own map. And so when he pulls out the map, it's not in this little teeny tiny Tuesday Talk box on StreamYard. You're gonna have your map, and he's gonna be like, look right here. And we're all gonna look and be like, oh yeah. It's gonna be dope, y'all. So I'm gonna square that away, and he's gonna come back. And then I'm gonna post announcements on our Shrine of My Aunt Facebook page, and then y'all go get it because you're supporting him, but you're supporting you as well. And when we bring him back, we just gonna have a good time. That's a good idea. We're gonna do that. We're gonna do that, y'all. How much are the maps, Mfundishi?
We haven't priced it yet, so
Okay.
I can't give you a price.
Oh, this is hot off the presses.
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, well, thank you so much, you guys. Stay tuned. I'm gonna talk with him. We're gonna get that done. I don't know when, this week, next week, I don't know, but that pre-information is gonna come out so that you'll be prepared for that particular Tuesday talk. And I just want to thank you all for coming. And this will also rebroadcast on Tuesday. If Mfundishi was not able to come back on Tuesday for Tuesday talk, so it's Friday, and you get it Friday live, and you get it Tuesday recorded. Sit back, watch it again. This was a lecture, y'all. We just had a graduate level lecture on African history and culture. Okay, so dua, and thank you so much for being here. I really enjoy us speaking and working with you, Mfundishi.
Thank you. Dua.
See you next time. Shalom Matef, guys.
Dua into.
Dua.
I'll up to.